I started to think that the movie was changing. The words that I was saying was making it change, and I thought that people were like changing it on computers to the story of Lucifer. And I thought it was like the true story of Lucifer, which was my film, because I thought it was the devil.
I didn't know whether he might try and attack me if he thought he was the devil. But basically it went on like this, sort of like all through the night with a loud telly, you know, and the voices, and turning the lights up bright, you know, all through the night. And I phoned my sister about 6 o'clock in the morning and said, help.
Ο James, 16 χρονών πια, κατέληξε σε μια ψυχιατρική κλινική ανηλίκων.
The majority of young people who admitted have a psychotic illness of some kind, and looking into the histories of those young people, cannabis use would be present and probably playing a significant role in the development of their problems in at least 75%, perhaps as much as 90%.
Cannabis would play a significant role in more than 3/4 of the people that you see here.
Yes, and in fact it's unusual for us to see a young person with a severe psychotic illness where there has been no exposure to cannabis at all.
Ερευνητές ανά τον κόσμο παρακολούθησαν χιλιάδες νέους καθώς μεγάλωναν. Το έργο τους δείχνει πως η πιθανότητα να βιώσουν συμπτώματα ψύχωσης αυξάνεται αν έκαναν βαριά χρήση κάνναβης όταν ήταν νέοι. Οι καπνιστές κάνναβης έχουν 10% πιθανότητες να παρουσιάσουν συμπτώματα ψύχωσης μέχρι τα 25 τους. Επίσης, όσο πιο μικροί ξεκινάνε και όσο πιο πολύ καπνίζουν, τόσο μεγαλύτερες είναι οι πιθανότητες να αρρωστήσουν. Μερικά από τα συμπτώματα της κάνναβης που αρέσουν στους καπνιστές είναι πολύ παρόμοια με αυτά που έχουν οι ασθενείς με ψύχωση.
Part of the intoxication experience may well include psychotic type symptoms, and indeed some people may really enjoy that.
It gives me something I'm quite addicted to, and that is the feeling of aha. It allows me to step back and see the big picture.
Puts you into a very analytical, not in a sort of Dr. Spock kind of that is a logical captain, but in a kind of examining things and analysing maybe the currents that go with it, you know.
I've had people describe to me thoroughly enjoying absolutely psychotic symptoms, like, for example, smelling colours or seeing sounds.
Cannabis seems to connect parts of your mind to each other in ways that it doesn't normally do, and then you can really make sense of things.
A psychotic symptom is really a misinterpretation of reality. A psychosis is a bunch of those symptoms which causes me to lose touch with reality.
Για τους περισσότερους χρήστες κάνναβης, τα συμπτώματα ψύχωσης φεύγουν όταν εξασθενεί η επίδραση του ναρκωτικού. Όχι όμως για όλους. Όταν άρχισε να καπνίζει ο James είχε πλάκα. Μερικές φορές κάπνιζε με τον πατέρα του. Οι γονείς του είχαν χωρίσει. Κάποιες φορές ο πατέρας του αγόραζε κάνναβη για αυτόν.
I was smoking it virtually every day, and I was going to say, yeah, I'll keep on smoking it till I die. I love it and all this stuff. I even got a tattoo of it.
I found out that he started smoking, and I wasn't very pleased about that. But I didn't actually know much about cannabis. I wasn't sure how worried I was supposed to be.
Κοιτώντας το παρελθόν, η μητέρα του James πιστεύει πως τα πρώτα συμπτώματα ξεκίνησαν όταν άρχισε να καπνίζει.
His personality just seemed to change, really. He was just getting a lot more serious, sort of grumpy in the mornings. He'd lost his enthusiasm for anything. So it was a bit hard to tell whether that was just part of being a normal teenager or whether there was something more to it.
Ανησύχησε αρκετά όμως ώστε να πάει το James σε ένα γιατρό.
The doctor said that he'd been more worried about James smoking normal cigarettes than he would about him smoking cannabis. That James was basically just a normal teenager.
Οι επιστήμονες αρχίζουν να καταλαβαίνουν περισσότερα για το πώς είναι ένας φυσιολογικός έφηβος. Θεωρούσαμε πως ο εγκέφαλος μορφοποιείται πλήρως μέχρι τα 20. Πλέον ξέρουμε πως ο εγκέφαλος του ενήλικα μορφοποιείται συνεχώς.
There are changes in the architecture. Many cells are making new connections and branching out. Other cells which don't seem to be needed are literally being pruned. And these changes are occurring particularly in the parts of the brain that are responsible for reasoning and problem solving. And it's those areas that seem to be particularly vulnerable in early adolescence, vulnerable to exposure to drugs, including cannabis.
Αυτή είναι μία από τις λίγες φάρμες στην Ευρώπη που έχουν άδεια για να καλλιεργούν κάνναβη. Καλλιεργούν για επιστημονική έρευνα και για ιατρική χρήση. Η κάνναβη περιέχει εκατοντάδες διαφορετικές χημικές ουσίες, 60 από τις οποίες συναντάμε μόνο σε αυτό το φυτό.
Here we are looking to breed a stable quality. We want the same amount of THC.
Το THC είναι η ουσία που δίνει στους καπνιστές αυτό το ανέβασμα. Μέχρι πρότινος γνωρίζαμε πολύ λίγα για το THC, το ενεργό συστατικό ενός από τα πιο διαδεδομένα ναρκωτικά στον κόσμο και το πώς ενεργούσε στον εγκέφαλο των νέων. Το αποφασιστικό βήμα έγινε στη δεκαετία του 80, όταν ανακαλύφθηκε πως η κάνναβη κολλά στους υποδοχείς που υπάρχουν σε όλο τον εγκέφαλο και πως μιμείται φυσιολογικά παραγόμενες ουσίες του εγκεφάλου. Αυτό το δίκτυο υποδοχέων ονομάστηκε το κανναβοειδές σύστημα. Η καθηγήτρια Γιασμίν Χέρντ μελετά το κανναβοειδές σύστημα εδώ και μια δεκαετία.
So Yasmin, this is a human brain.
Yes, it is.
So which parts of the brain does cannabis affect?
Cannabis affects a large part of the brain because cannabinoid receptors, where cannabis works, are located throughout the cortex. All of this is our cortex, and this is our cerebellum, important for motor coordination, and cannabinoid receptors are all over the brain.
So cannabis really has a very profound effect on the brain, affecting almost all the brain functions.
Exactly. So cannabis affects learning and memory, it affects pain regulation, motor function, emotional regulation. So because the cannabinoid receptors are one of the most abundant receptors throughout all of the brain.
Just to remind you that you have please to look to the monitor and
Χρησιμοποιώντας τη πιο μοντέρνα τεχνολογία ακτινογραφιών, οι επιστήμονες βλέπουν πως η κάνναβη ερεθίζει ένα κύριο χημικό του εγκεφάλου, την ντοπαμίνη. Όταν τρώμε, κάνουμε σεξ ή παίρνουμε ναρκωτικά, η ντοπαμίνη είναι αυτή που μεταφέρει το αίσθημα ευχαρίστησης στον εγκέφαλο. Πλέον γνωρίζουμε πως η ντοπαμίνη έχει κι άλλες λειτουργίες.
Dopamine is the chemical which grabs your attention. So if suddenly something exciting happens, then this is mediated by dopamine. You pay attention to something when dopamine is released. And in psychosis, what people find is that everything seems to catch their attention. That a little noise or the way that somebody grimaces or somebody new comes in the door or they hear something on the television, all of these things seem to be tremendously important. This is because the dopamine makes them important, and then they think, gosh, these are really important to me. They begin to connect them. They think one is connected to the other. They think the television is talking to them. They think the neighbours are conspiring against them. And it's the dopamine release that causes people to develop these delusions.
What role does cannabis play in the dopamine system?
Well, the cannabis just revs up the dopamine.